Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, great.
And yes,
Okay, let's do this.
put this from under your shirt.
It was the summer of 1984 in hot and sweaty Delhi. I was 12, going on 13, with all the typical drama that comes along with that messy transition from boy to not boy but not yet man. Typical 80s kid, completely unremarkable, small for my age, skinny, perpetually skinned knees, and of course, the obligatory katori cut. Now, for those of you who don't know, a katori is a small bowl, and the katori cut is achieved by placing said bowl on one's head and then cutting off all the bits of hair you can still see. I was sick of it, desperate to stand out, yearning to be taken seriously. And as with most such stories of boyhood angst, the central character in my personal soap opera was a girl. Her name was Anjali. She was pretty, vivacious, funny, and most importantly, just that little bit shorter than me. A large part of my life was spent daydreaming about impossible rescue scenarios, burning buildings, rabid dogs. Of course, with me doing the rescuing and Anjali as the rescuee. I was so tired of being a boy. Girls would laugh at my jokes, but then look over my shoulder at the taller, cooler guys in the back to see if they'd been noticed. I wanted to be like those guys, with their balloon baggy pants, white socks, sleeves rolled up to their armpits. It was the 80s, remember? I didn't want to be nice. I didn't want to be sweet. I want to be noticed, and most importantly, by Anjali. And then suddenly one day, opportunity presented itself in the ample form of Pammi Auntie from USA. Now, those of you who've grown up in the deprivation of 80s in India will know the glamour and excitement associated with NRI relatives visiting from abroad. Those guys seem to be made of money. And just like that, casually, Pammi Auntie hands me a 10 rupee note. Go buy yourself something, beta. I forgot to bring you a gift. Just like that. 10 rupees. There was a lot you could do with 10 rupees in 1984. But I knew exactly what I wanted. I wanted to get a proper haircut. Not a katori cut, you understand. This was going to be special. I was going to go to Andre's, the only salon in the neighborhood. I had only ever seen it from the outside, with the impossibly cool red leather chairs, the mysterious lotions and spray bottles and hair dryers, and occasionally the glimpse of a peroxide blonde head of Andre, the man himself. What better way could there be for me to lift myself out of obscurity and win the attentions of my girl? And I also knew exactly what kind of hairstyle I wanted. A daring slash across the forehead, shorter on the sides, and a long tapering tail at the back. Basically, I wanted to look like Rick Astley. But I knew that a haircut at Andre's costs 15 rupees and not 10. The next few days, I was consumed with thoughts on how to raise the balance money. Mission 5 rupees. You know, in the 80s, we used to have these posters in our rooms. And I had a poster of this super bike leaning into a curve with a corny slogan that said, "A winner never quits, a quitter never wins." I made that my mantra for the next few days. But all the old newspapers and bottles had already been sold, and nobody wanted to buy my extra cassette of Michael Jackson's Thriller. So I knew I had no option but to reach out to Rana. Clingy, wheezy, desperate for my attention Rana. I knew I was using him, but I had no other choice. Rana was one of those kids whose parents gave him unlimited supply of pocket money. And sure enough, he had the money to give me, and it was a brilliant idea, a stroke of genius, actually, to reach out to him, because, as expected, he knew more about these things than I did. "Don't you know," he said, "a tip would be expected." Well, that was a close call. Imagine going to a fancy salon, getting a fancy haircut, and not leaving a tip. So he lent me 10 rupees instead of 5, and now I had 20 rupees, which is more than I had ever had in my entire life. I couldn't wait till Saturday for my appointment with Andre, and I couldn't wait to see Anjali on Monday. I'd finally decided that the situation would play out something like this. She would notice me, she would perk up with interest. Who's the cool new guy, she'd think, only to realize that it was me. Here I was now. Picture this, at Andre's. Money carefully folded and kept in my back pocket, stomach feeling weirdly empty like I had not eaten in days. The fact that I was the tiniest kid in the salon didn't help matters. The wall of this place was covered in posters of these impossibly handsome men with all the different dashing haircuts. But I didn't need them. I knew exactly what I wanted. On closer inspection, Andres fell a little short of the expected ideal. Bits of hair lying around, patched and stained leather chairs, the overpowering smell of disinfectant. But no. Push these thoughts aside. This was going to work. These were professionals. This was Andres after all. And now, finally, it was my turn. My stylist's frayed name tag read Alan. Acne spots, dirty nails. Some of the old misgivings did return, but I pushed them aside. And then he started to flick my hair from side to side, expertly. Oh yes, this was going to work. I could feel my body unclench as I settled into the chair with a wiggle. Alan clearly gets it. Everything is going to be just fine. I closed my eyes and I only opened them when the scissors stopped snipping and the hairdryer stopped buzzing. This is it. Wow! Would you look at me? The sweep from the front, the shorter bits at the back. Well, the back is going to take a little while to grow out, but everything else is just perfect. Alan has earned his tip fair and square. I cycled back home with hot flushes of excitement exploding in my chest. Success! I would have to deal with Mom when I got back home, but that was a price I was happy to pay. Mom's reaction when I got home was a little difficult to decipher. Was there a tiny hint of a smile right there? Nah. She's just amazed at how her little boy has grown up and become so cool. Beta, you didn't tell me you're going to have a haircut? She said. I shrugged my shoulders nonchalantly. We don't answer these questions now, we're cool. I went to my room, stood in front of the mirror. Then I started to try on different looks to match my hairstyle. Denim jacket? Check. Casual t-shirt? Check. Pullover casually draped across my shoulders? Check, check, check. A career in modeling suddenly seemed like a very real possibility. Dinner was a rushed affair. I was preoccupied with a million thoughts of the new me scenarios, obviously involving Anjali. I replayed the burning building scenario, but this time with my new hairstyle. The wind blowing through my hair as I walked away from the inferno in slow motion with Anjali tucked in my arms. Perhaps for the first time in my life, I couldn't wait for Monday and I wanted to just delete Sunday. As I leapt out of bed the next morning, my mom told me I had to have a bath. Fair enough, I had bits of hair still sticking to me, so I didn't argue. Shower done, I headed for the mirror. My hair was plastered to my head, but no cause for concern. I had seen how Alan had carefully achieved the sweep effect using a roller brush. Now, I didn't have a roller brush, I only had a comb, but I'm sure I would be able to manage. I made a note to myself, though, that I must invest in a roller brush going forward. So, pull it out and flick it back. Wait a minute. It's just falling over to one side. Maybe that's because my hair is still wet. I don't have a hairdryer, but a good toweling should do the trick. Now, once again, pull forward and flick back. What the hell? It's still kind of falling over. No, I'm not doing it right. It's all in the flick. It's all in the wrist. So pull forward and flick. Damn it. I could hear Mum calling me for breakfast. My face was blank as I tried the special maneuver for the 25th time, digging the comb painfully into my scalp to try and rework the magic. But it was hopeless. Utterly hopeless. Rick Astley would be ashamed. Mom was outside the bathroom door. Everything okay, beta? No. Everything was not okay. Everything was utterly miserable and there was nothing anybody could do about it. How am I going to show my face like this to Anjali? And don't even get me started about what the other boys are going to do to me when they see this. Couldn't I just spend the rest of my life here? I mean, there's water. I could put some towels on the floor. But Mum was getting desperate outside and a little worried. Finally, I emerged. My mum took one look at me and an exclamation of dismay escaped her lips before she could stop herself. Beta, your hair. And it was just too much. I broke down and I cried and I cried and I clung to her and I sobbed. It was all so unfair. She just let me hold on to her and get it out of my system, as she usually did. And once the sobbing subsided, she held me at arm's length and said, "Come, let me have a look. Let's see what we can do with this." Ultimately, there was nothing much anybody could do, really. She chopped off the most offending bits and made me look relatively neat and normal. I was back to being a boy. Sadder, wiser, but just a little boy. My eyes still felt raw from crying, and the crushing disappointment of Sunday morning was still a dull ache in my chest when I finally reached school on Monday. I brutally suppressed all the fantastic ideas I had built up in my mind for this moment, because thinking about that would only make me cry again. And if the boys saw me crying in school, that would be the end of my life as I knew it. "Hey, your hair looks funny." Here it comes. But wait, that's a familiar voice. "Good morning to you too, Anjali." She laughed. "No, it's just that it's sticking up a little bit at the back." I said something funny then, made her laugh, something self-deprecatory. And just like that, she came and sat next to me in chemistry class. I would love to tell you that sparks flew and one thing led to another. But the fact is, 6 months later, she changed schools and I never saw her again. But I learned an important life lesson that day. Confidence and a sense of humor is going to get you a lot further in love and life than any fancy hairstyle. A very important lesson for me to learn as things turned out.